All right, so this is just about it. This is the wrap up. This is the last one of the last day when everybody's leaving. Some of you are feeling left out because you weren't here. Maybe you'll be here next year. Who knows? But who knows where we'll be next year at this time? So we can all be there. Joining me is Hackim Farrell, the Senior Director, Product Management, Core Platform Threat Detection and Response. Big thing on your desk.
Yeah.
To get that whole title in. Thanks for coming down.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
You've been having fun at OneCon 25?
Yeah, it's been great. It's always fantastic hearing from the customers and partners. It's like the things that you should know and you do know, but it's always good to get that reminder and reinforcement when you say it again.
I guess. I was a programmer. I don't want to go out among the no, don't let any users down here.
Right.
But it is a really good thing, I think, to hear from people that are using a product that you develop, because you probably hear things you didn't expect.
Right.
In all directions, good, bad, and indifferent. So that's pretty interesting. One of the terms that I heard a lot was Wayfinder.
Yeah.
I mean, do you tell me a little bit about Wayfinder then?
Yeah, so Wayfinder is our new umbrella brand for all of our managed services. So if you think everything from detection, hands-on keyboard hunting, finding new threats within the customer environment, to investigation of threats across every attack surface, including SentinelOne surfaces and third-party surface data that is brought into the platform, and then response, but also incident readiness. Like, how do you plan for a crisis? Like, partnering with you before, during, and after the crisis. So Wayfinder is a brand for our entire managed services portfolio.
Does that trigger, because this is near and dear to my heart now. I was a disaster recovery planning person as a consultant. So would that trigger like an incident stream when something happens?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's sort of three core teams within the Wayfinder brand. There's a team of hunters that just look for hidden adversaries within a customer environment, surfacing new threats that the product may miss. So hands-on keyboard hunting, writing queries to look for specific things and behaviors within a customer's environment. And then there's a group of analysts looking at all of those threats the hunters just raised. Let me investigate this. Okay, this happened on the endpoint. Let me see what happened on identity. Let me see what the third-party intelligence from secure email gateway is telling me as well. And then if that becomes and materializes into an incident, well, now we have a whole digital forensics and incident response team that will take that on and run that as an incident from beginning to end, including here's some remediation actions that you can take to ensure that this does not happen again. But we take it a step further. Like, we do preparation in anticipation that this is inevitable, right? Mm-hmm. So let's conduct tabletop exercises. So what do you do if this were to happen?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things when we first started doing this was quite a while ago, and it was new. Companies started calling and saying, "Can you help us? Because we're suddenly subject to HIPAA. We're suddenly subject to Sarbanes and all this stuff." And they didn't really know what to do, because this was not an area they had ever thought of, because forever they had the, security through obscurity that I hate so much idea that nobody's going to figure this stuff out. It's too obscure. Why? It's not even a threat. We're much more worried about our product sales in the Asia region or something. Mm-hmm. And I'm glad to see that starting to come together, because a lot of companies didn't have a plan, for one thing. And even when they had a plan, what we were doing was we were forcing them to execute those plans and saying, okay, you walked in today, this server is acting weird. What's your first move?
Yeah.
And so that sounds like what you're talking about.
Absolutely. So we call it our breach readiness plan. So like, we have a catalog of breach readiness services that we offer, where it's almost like you work in a corporate building, you go through fire drills based on regulation from the fire marshals within the city in which you live. And it's the same thing, same approach we've taken to cybersecurity, right? If there's a fire, how do you exit the building? Where do you meet outside? Where do you gather? Who's in charge? Who's on point within that office space? It's the exact same approach that we've taken to our breach readiness sort of portfolio of catalog of services.
Yeah, we called that battle station readiness
Right.
because I wanted it like on a ship where they ring an alarm and people know where to go.
Exactly.
And they go down there and they start priming their weapons and they,
Yeah.
they have a specific assignment. Like
Right.
you cover that little field of view, and if you see anything, you shoot it.
Yeah.
And that was what I wanted them to be able to do because most of them couldn't.
Right.
They started with, well, I'll call Ted and he'll take care of it. And you're like, okay, call Ted right now. I want to see if you know his number. They're like, I don't have the number. And somebody says, Ted retired 2 years ago, and it's like, and then the whole plan just literally falls to pieces and they're left running around flapping their arms.
Exactly. Yeah.
So this sounds like it would guide me a lot in that process.
Absolutely. It would guide you. It's kind of like, once you have a playbook that you run regularly on a predefined cadence, well, then it's always current. It's always up to date. It's not something that was just filled from 2 years ago, and then the person's phone number that you're supposed to call is going to a deadline or something like that.
Yeah. So this is what we were trying to get people to do, but it was very manual.
Yes.
It was like, I need you to run this playbook once a month so that,
Right.
when you make that call to Ted and you find out Ted retired, you can update this information.
Yeah.
You have these root passwords in a vault, the combination, and it's not this one person that's not here this week kind of thing. So that's all getting ingested into this, right?
That's all getting ingested. But I think one of the also the bigger things and a major secret sauce in the entire Wayfinder family has been our partnership with Google Threat Intelligence.
Okay.
So now we've integrated Google Threat Intelligence in every one of our MDR tiers. So regardless of the MDR type of customer you are, you have Google Threat Intelligence at the core for hunting reasons and surfacing those threats based on the full breadth and visibility that Google has. So we combine Google with our Sentinel Labs research, with open source intelligence. We have a broad partner network as well. So any feedback that we get from our partners who are operating on the platform, all of that goes into what we call applied intelligence to surface new threats from various sources.
So that would mean like, and I'll make up a silly one, but so somebody finds out in, I don't know, Venezuela that port 6465 is being scanned, with Shodan, and we're not even 100% sure yet what it means. That goes, Google Threat Intelligence is distributing that information.
100%.
And that means maybe I get an alert.
Yes. So you'll get an alert in the platform, and it will show up as a Wayfinder detection.
Okay.
So Wayfinder being part of our managed services offering, this will be a Wayfinder detection, and that new detection will trigger a Wayfinder analyst to now dig deeper. Let me see if there's any indicators or signals of this behavior within my environments.
So would some of your other tools know that that port was open?
Yeah, because now we're pulling data into the SIM from.
So like Observo and some of the Observo is actually ingesting all that stuff that I might not even be monitoring if I was a human,
Right.
because I've had to limit. I've seen these shops where the humans are only looking at port up to 1024, and I'm like, what? Worried about all the rest of the 65,536 ports that you aren't looking at?
Yeah.
Like, you don't think that's a problem? And they're just like, we don't have the the cycles.
Right.
So that sounds like you're reducing that bit.
Yeah, and Observo, that's a great point. So Observo helps us get further visibility. But one of the great things, HyperAutomation also increases our response capability, right? So not only will we take an action, let's say, on a SentinelOne surface of, oh, let's quarantine this endpoint. No, we can take it a step further. Let's add this user to a more restricted group on Zscaler. Or let's force two-factor authentication via our HyperAutomation workflow. So it's this broad ecosystem of Observo gives us more visibility, like you were referencing, but then the Wayfinder team will also leverage the HyperAutomation tools to expand their response capabilities far beyond the bounds of SentinelOne surfaces.
Yeah, because I teach IDS, at a university. So I have students this week, and they're using very low level tools. So they're using Suricata to monitor these streams, which is what Observo does.
Right.
So I'm making them do it. And so they're looking for certain things to happen during this week that they can detect, and then they push that into Kibana or something like that. So, build reports around it. It sounds like this can really make that efficient.
Absolutely. It can not only make it efficient, but it can like highly customize it and
Okay.
tailor the response action that a customer wants. Because we try to, I think a lot of times managed services, it can be a one size fits all, but HyperAutomation really allows us to customize that experience, right? So if it's a P1, some customers may only want a phone call for a P1. Other customers may want a for a P1 and a P2, right? So HyperAutomation allows us to almost give like that white glove experience to an MDR response action.
And then all that information gets ingested into Purple.
Yes.
And so Purple can then share that across a lot of space.
A lot of space. And the great thing that folks don't realize, the relationship between Purple and Wayfinder is very symbiotic, right? So Purple is learning from every action of a Wayfinder analyst.
Okay.
So if a Wayfinder is investigating these threats and that Wayfinder analyst says, this is a true positive, now for customers who are using Purple, but they don't have Wayfinder services, they get the benefit of that knowledge in Purple as well. Because the Purple will say, hey, based on our broad breadth of knowledge and information, this is a true positive, right? You should look into this. This is now risky. Let me prioritize this.
Yeah, so if I go back to my port 6465 TCP or something, that means that gets sort of found because of not anything internal, but because we're hearing it from Google Threat Intelligence.
Yes.
I get it as the Wayfinder analyst, and I say that is a huge threat.
Yes.
That's a that's a console port on a router that we do not want people accessing. We need to make sure we don't have this. So my escalating of that threat from the just alert level to serious concern, that then gets ingested in this Purple layer.
Absolutely.
And then that can share that information with others. And I presume then that as those others also make decisions and somebody says, oh, Doug's a drama queen, he's escalating. Oh, but no, we don't even think this is a real threat. It's just silly. I mean, no, it's so difficult to do. Nobody could ever pull any exploit off with this. Then it can find that balance to inform others that, and I think it was Eli was telling me about, there's like a community, the community likelihood or the community threat.
Yeah, the community verdict. So we have this scoring mechanism called community verdict where we have weighted averages based on who we consider experts, right? So since we use Purple internally as well to deliver our own Wayfinder services, we are patient zero and we are the experts. So the weighting of us saying this is a true positive versus the weighting of an individual user who's using Purple, but they don't have Wayfinder, the weighting will be a lot lower. So it will add more credence to the community verdict that Wayfinder analyst gives it to ensure that we're eliminating the noise from this signal for you.
And that would be very helpful and I think that would also teach me better habits.
Yeah.
Because I will say I've known analysts, not me, of course, who did have strong feelings about certain things, and maybe those feelings weren't really justified. And you can see, I think, so this was very much like this fusion center idea that came around for law enforcement back, in like 2005, where they were literally creating a way to disseminate information to all of these different entities who never communicated.
Right.
Like they didn't talk to each other at all. And suddenly they're getting this sort of harmless intel that was very, very helpful to them, because I ran a bunch of exercises with this to try to show how it worked, to convince this sheriff's office they should be a part of it because they might find out something useful.
Right.
And not just be left out in the cold. So I think that sounds really cool. I will ask you then, so what does my team look like in 3 years or so? I mean, maybe even sooner with all this going on. It seems like it's going to shift my team up. So some of this really lame low entry stuff, I could now train those people out very quickly and get them up to the analyst level to actually participate in this.
Yeah. I like to think it helps democratize the role of a SOC analyst. So instead of investigating, maybe let me see if this informational alert or if this low alert is really something I should be looking at.
Right.
The future is one where Purple will take care of that investigation of informational alert for you. It will provide you a disposition in terms of, here's what I investigated, here's my conclusion, here's a relationship in terms of maybe the attack path, and here's an action that I took against it. So now your analyst will only be really looking at like critical and highs alerts instead of looking at the full SWOT of all severity types.
Can I pull that apart? I mean, can I pull that apart though and make my own conclusions from it?
Absolutely. So one of the beautiful things that I think we showed a snippet of it yesterday is we show the investigation steps that Purple will now be taking. So we are now mimicking the investigation steps of a human analyst and providing you a step-by-step reasoning. Here's exactly what Purple did first. Here's what it checked next. And here's why it checked that thing. And here's its conclusion over the course of an investigation. So the investigation from triage to investigation to response is not a black box. It's completely spelled out for you in terms of all of the steps that Purple took to get to that.
I think it's so important because I remember talking to banks about neural nets. And because of those hidden layers in neural nets, it was very difficult to explain the math of what was going on there. And even if you could explain the math, it wasn't always evident how that was working. And there was a lot of, resistance to the idea that there's a thing making a decision and I don't have a part in it. I don't see it.
Yeah.
So it would worry me too. I mean, you come in and tell me this is a problem, this is not. I'm like, wait, why? I want to know, why is port 6465 a threat? I never heard that before. And so being able to break that down, and that's a good training document too, because I can take those junior analysts and say, look at what's going on here. Learn from this and see, here's how it breaks down. This is what you should do.
Yeah.
Learn how to do this, because I would still want them to learn how to do it.
Absolutely.
And then, then you can rely on this data and do your job fast, and you can focus on the things you need to focus on.
It kind of reminds me of phishing simulation services, right? How you train employees, now you can start training analysts and unleveling analysts based on a Purple AI investigation and the workflow.
Because the old way to train analysts was like, knock on my door, show it to me if you're not sure. And, okay, every 5 minutes, so I like that. All right, well, that's all the time we have. I thank Hackim Farrell for joining me on this wrap up. I'm Doug White for Security Weekly News. This is the end of our, television day. Thank you for joining us here at OneCon 25. The interview is sponsored by SentinelOne, so please visit securityweekly.com/OneCon if you'd like to get more information about SentinelOne and all these cool products that we all want to get our hands on as soon as possible. Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, Doug.